Welcome to episode 8 of Fiction Friday. We have been out of school for 8 weeks now, at least here in Michigan. So this is episode 8 of Fiction Friday. I am Heather Shoemaker, author of books for kids and adults, and I'd like to dedicate today's episode to Zoe from Michigan. Hi, Zoe. She wrote to me and she said, I've been reading The Griffins of Castle Carey. I really like it so much. I want you to make a movie about it and another book. It's one of my favorite books. I just can't put it down. I love writing, says Zoe. Maybe when I grow up, I'll be an author. And then she asks, how long did it take you to write The Griffins of Castle Carey? Well, Zoe, it took me about an hour a day for quite a couple of years. So I got up at 5 a.m. before anybody else in my family was awake, and I would sit there in that kind of dark, dreamy hour until everybody got up for school and work, and I would dream up The Griffins of Castle Carey. So I did a little bit every day, and you can do that with your writing too. You don't have to write a book all at once. But I did about an hour a day it took me 5 years from the time I started to the time it got published. And that seems like a super long time, but I wasn't working on it all the time. And one year I even took the whole year off and just let the book sit off to the side. That can help you to come back to your story with fresh eyes, because sometimes as an author you have to do really difficult things like cut out a whole chapter that doesn't really work for the story or add a new chapter in. So if you let it sit for a while, then you can come back to your story and see how can you make it even better. And another thing with writing is that right now you should just write whatever stories are in your mind and just have fun with it. But at some point when you're getting your books ready for publication, it's really important to have other people help make your story better. And you have to be prepared for that. You have to say, oh, I got to change that, or oh, and that can be really hard to take a tip from somebody else, maybe from a teacher or from somebody in your family or a friend who has an idea to make your story just a little bit better. So don't worry about that too much. That will come as you grow older. Right now, just keep on writing your stories and putting out your fantastic ideas. So speaking of fantastic ideas, I wanted to share with you some great news. The fiction contest that we had for kids, we got 285 submissions. So 285 of you from all around the world wrote in stories for the Kids Write Fiction contest. That is fantastic. We're sorting through all the entries right now, and the judges are really busy. So hold on, and we will tell you the winners sometime soon. But for right now, I did peek at some of them, and you have done amazing writing. Such interesting story ideas. Thank you. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about heroes today. So every book has a hero, or sometimes more than one main character who's the hero of the story. And really, a hero is just a regular person who rises up to do something amazing, something wonderful that's worthy of a book. Now, have you ever in your own life wanted to help somebody or do something and something held you back? Something stopped you from doing that. That's what heroes have to contend with too. There's often something that will stop our hero. Now, it's not always, like in The Griffins of Castle Carey, a ghost or the bad guy, but it can be something inside your character. So inside your main character is something that they're worried about or something that makes them think they can't do it. Maybe they're afraid of the dark and they have to go into a dark cave. Or maybe they think they're not smart enough, or they're not something enough, they're not brave enough, or they're worried about what other people will say. There's often things that will hold us back. And in addition to defeating the bad guy of the story or whatever the story's plot is, the hero often has to overcome what's holding them back. And we have to do that in real life too. So when you think about your hero, maybe there's something, maybe they're not a perfect person. Maybe there's something about them that makes them a little nervous or scared or doubtful, so that when they actually rise up and do that wonderful thing at the climax of your story, that we can say, wow, that was really took a lot of courage, or that really made them a hero. So I wanted to share a little author secret with you today, too. In addition to having something the hero has to overcome inside of them, there's also something that children's book authors really have to grapple with. The heroes often have to get rid of something else in order to have this great adventure. And do you know what that is? It's the parents. When we're writing a children's book as authors, we have to come up with all kinds of creative ways to push the parents off to the side so that the hero, the child hero, can have a true adventure. Because kids like Zoe, who like to read a book with a lot of action and adventure and suspense, and with a kid hero or more than one kid hero figuring out how to solve the problem in the end, they have to solve it themselves. Can you think how terrible it would be if at the climax of the book, mom comes in with a cell phone and dials 911 and just solves the whole problem? It wouldn't be very interesting reading. So as authors, we have to find ways to get rid of the parents. Because what do parents do? They try to save the kids, they try to protect the kids, they try to keep them safe. Now, I'm all for that in real life. That's your parents' job. But it doesn't work so well in a story. If you want an adventure, you might have to get rid of the parents. So I'm just going to read to you a little bit of how I did that in my book, The Griffins of Castle Carey. This is right from the beginning. I sent the children away to stay with their aunt. And as we all know, aunts and uncles love you and they're very fun and they take care of you, but they're not quite the same as parents. And so I had a little bit more latitude to have the kids have an adventure if the parents weren't around. Remember, the kids in this story, their last name is Griffin. Being Griffins, the children had always longed to see the griffinage, but a griffinage with Aunt Effie in it, not an unknown uncle. When Mama announced the news about their extra long spring break, you'll have to miss a week of school, Dad and I will be away at the geology conference, and you three will stay at the griffinage. Nobody had mentioned Uncle Ben. The griffinage, said Will. Cool. It'll be like living in our own family castle, said Meg. Hardly, said their father, who'd been there before. You're not staying in the manor itself, you know. The griffinage is a house, and the only true castle in Castle Carey is in ruins. But still, said Meg, and she walked away to dream of castles with emblems of griffins on the front door. So I sent the parents off on a business trip to a conference to learn about geology, and I have the kids go stay with their aunt. But can you think of other books where the kids are by themselves with no parents? Think about how many children's books there are, maybe that you've read, that are about orphans, kids with no parents at all, because then it's really set up for adventure. Harry Potter comes to mind, right? Anne of Green Gables, The Mysterious Benedict Society. Can you think of some more? Series of Unfortunate Events. A lot of Roald Dahl books. He wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He gets rid of the parents differently there. He has Charlie go off with a grandparent. But in Sophie, the BFG, where Sophie is the main character, she's an orphan and she's plucked right out of the orphanage. So there's so many books about children who are orphans who have adventures. Think about that. And then there's books where the children aren't orphans, but they get rid of the parents in other ways. For example, in Suzanne Collins' books for younger readers, the Gregor and the Overlanders series, the parents are still alive, but she gets rid of them in various ways, including giving the mother the plague at one time. And then in James and the Giant Peach, he is an orphan, but they get rid of the parents in such a strange way. So the parents are walking down the street in the middle of the daytime, I think in London, and an angry rhinoceros that escapes from the zoo comes and rolls over them and kills them instantly. So there are a lot of ways that authors get rid of the parents in books that frees them up to allow the child to have an adventure on their own. And do you know one more way that authors really have to think about what to get rid of in a book so kids can have an adventure is this little thing. right? Not only do we have to find creative ways to push the parents out of the story, but we have to find ways to get rid of technology so that somebody doesn't come by with a cell phone and just say, oh, I'll solve your problems. We want the hero to solve their own problems and to be able to be the real hero of the story. So can you think of a book title that the kids are orphans, or that the author got rid of either the cell phone or the parents in a really creative way? If you can, send me those book titles. I will mention you on a future Fiction Friday. All right, today's joke. Why are frogs always happy? Because they eat what bugs them. All right, and just because we're on the subject of bugs and insects, I thought I'd do a second joke. What do you call a fly without wings? What do you call a fly without wings? A walk. Did you like those ones? All right, I'm going to get my story cape out today. These are all the ideas that, oh, we've got yellow guys on top. All the ideas that stick to us as we walk through life, and all the ideas that we can put into stories. And these are all story ideas that I got that I put into the Griffins of Castle Carey. I'm just going to pull off an orange one today. So this one is just the idea of the parents in the Griffins of Castle Carey being geologists. I made them both university professors who are geologists. And I got this idea because my own grandfather was a geologist. In fact, he did write a book too. It's not a children's book, and I have never read it, but I have read the title, and it has a very scientific title, The Petrology of Deformed Rocks. So because of my grandfather, who loved to study rocks and geology, I made the parents in the Griffins of Castle Carey be geologists. And then, of course, I could push them off to another part of the world so they can go to a geology conference and the kids can have an adventure. I just wanted to show you a couple pictures of the geology of, that's the landscape and everything, of where the kids in the Griffins go visit. This is the part of England called Somerset, and it has an area called the Mendip Hills. And there's some really nice rocks there made out of limestone, and you can take walks. So here is the Mendip Hills. And I just show you a second picture of it. This is an area called Cheddar Gorge, big gorge here that you can walk and climb. But another neat thing about Cheddar is that this is where cheddar cheese started. So the caves, there's caves in this area, the caves of Cheddar area is where they would store the cheese so that it became known and famous as cheddar cheese. All right, you didn't know you get to learn about cheese today, did you? I wanted to show you some book recommendations. I always like to do that. And I've been thinking about, with the coronavirus going on, that's such a big deal, not just for your hometown and your state, but all over the world. The entire world is going through this at the same time. And it's impacting children all over the world. So for different countries, different ways. For example, the children in Spain couldn't even go outside, not even for a walk, for more than a month. Now they're allowed to go outside a little bit. But everything at this time is new and different and odd. And a lot of children are also separated from family, maybe just from your grandparents or other people, but there's separation going on. And I was thinking about, a lot of people are comparing this time period that we're in to when there was a big worldwide upheaval during World War II. So I was thinking of books that had to do with that World War time period that are really great books for kids. First, I wanted to show you some pictures. Have you ever read the Narnia books? Those are the books of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where the 4 children go into the wardrobe and find this magical land called Narnia and have adventures. Well, in the very first book, we learned that those 4 children are evacuees. That means they're moved away, they're evacuated from a big city like London, which might get bombed during the war, and they're sent off into the countryside. And that's the whole reason that their adventures start, is that they leave their big city home and they go off away from their parents, right, to live with a stranger in his house. He's called the professor, and they go into the wardrobe and have their adventures. But did you know that this really happened to children? And I wanted to show you. So children were sent, very young children, away from the big cities in England during the time of World War II, because they were afraid that if the children stayed in their homes that they would be bombed. And so these are some children that are being evacuated. Do you notice the labels on their jackets? These had their names and their identifying information so that they wouldn't get lost when they were journeying. They mostly took trains to get out into the countryside. And then this is another picture. So many kids, more than 1 million children were evacuated and went to go live in a stranger's house for not just a day or a week, but for years in many cases. So another story that was inspired by all this, do you recognize Paddington? He had a label around his coat. He was found on the Paddington station platform, and it says, "Please look after this bear. Thank you." And the reason that the author of Paddington thought of having this little label on him and having him on a train platform is because he was inspired after seeing all these photos of children being evacuated at train stations with their labels on them. And so he thought up of a bear that would have the same thing. So that's how Paddington got his start and his label. So I wanted to share with you some of these books that I think are fantastic now that you know a little bit about the children who were sent away from the big cities during World War II in England. This is a book that I really like called The War That Saved My Life, because even though war was a terrible thing and a lot of children and grown-ups died, some children really had an amazing adventure when they got out of the city. And in this case, this girl, this is a book by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. This girl had a bad life at home. When she lived in London, her mother was a bad mother who was an abusive mother. So when she had a chance to leave her home and go out into the countryside and live with a stranger, even though it was new and different and difficult, she actually had a hero's journey, and she was able to have a better life because of this. Now, this book, when I read it, and I really loved this book a lot, reminded me completely of its companion book. This is written by a totally different author, Goodnight, Mr. Tom. This book was written first about 40 years ago, and it has a very similar story. It's about a child evacuee, in this case, a boy, who also has an abusive mother, a mother who is not able to look after a child and hurts the child. And so this boy leaves that mother and goes off and stays with a wonderful man named Mr. Tom during the wartime, and all of his adventures, and how the war has also given him a completely new and better life. So these books, one is about a girl, one's about a boy, and they're both during World War II in England, and they're both really good books in their own rights. So I suggest either one of those. I also have a book about World War II wasn't just in Europe and England and Germany. It was all over many, many parts of the world. And there's another book that I wanted to share with you, and I don't actually have it with you. I have other books by that author in my house. The author is Linda Sue Park, and this is one of the books I have by her. The one I want to tell you about is called When My Name Was Kyoko. And this is the cover for When My Name Was Kyoko. This book is about World War II on the other side of the world, taking place in Korea. Like Japan had occupied Korea. That means they'd taken it over and they were ruling it and they were in charge. But they did this even before World War II started. So this book, When My Name Was Kyoko, takes place during the World War II years. And Japan had taken over, and they were starting to be really strict about all kinds of control of the Korean people's life. And the reason the book is called When My Name Was Kyoko is that the girl in this story has to change her name from her real name, Suhee, Sunhee, and turn it into a Japanese name. So she has to call herself an entirely different name because the people in charge, the Japanese in charge, were making everybody change their names. They made all the people stop speaking Korean when they were outside their homes, and they made them do all sorts of things, including what trees they could plant. So Sun Hee's family wants to plant a Rose of Sharon tree because that's the symbol of Korea. But the Japanese want everybody to dig those up. They don't want that symbol of Korea. They want them all to plant cherry trees, which is a symbol of Japan. So in every part of their life, from school, from what they can plant in their backyard, their lives are being taken over by the invading people. And it's a very interesting look at a different aspect of World War II. And Linda Sue Park, who's written all kinds of books, picture books and chapter books, middle grade books, she's a great storyteller. So I think you will love any of her books, but I particularly wanted to let you know about When My Name Was Kyoko. Now, if you need a new book because you're getting low on reading material in your house, or you want to get When My Name Was Kyoko, or The War That Saved My Life, or Goodnight, Mr. Tom, or any of these good books, order it from a local bookstore. The one I want to tell you about today is called McLean and Eakin. That's where I met Zoe. It's a bookstore in Michigan. And they have all kinds of goodies for you during lockdown. So they have puzzles, they have games, they have recommended books for your age group. And if you buy a couple things from them, they'll just do shipping for 99 cents. So why don't you support your local bookstore or try McLean and Eakin. All right, now today I have a special gift for you. I am going to have a giveaway of the Griffins of Castle Carey. So if you are interested in winning a free copy, I'm going to give away one free copy of the paperback Griffins of Castle Carey to one of you. All you need to do is write to me, send me a message, and share Fiction Friday with someone you think who would like it. So if you know a friend or a teacher who might like seeing an episode, just share an episode with Fiction Friday with them and send me a note. And I will enter you in the list of names to win a free copy. I will sign it for you, put your name in, send you a special message writing right in the book to you. So I hope that you are the lucky winner of your very own copy of the Griffins of Castle Carey. And maybe if you already have a copy, you would like to win it for a friend. Maybe you want to send it to somebody who's having a birthday during their Zoom birthday party. Or maybe you want to send it to a child who's in lockdown. And since I'm giving away one copy, there might be more people who want something. I am also going to give the first kids who send me a note free bookmark, a Griffins of Castle Carey bookmark. So if you would like to win a bookmark or a book, just send me a note. Just write to me at my website. It has my email there, heathershoemaker.com. You could also leave me a message on my Facebook. It's Heather Shoemaker Writer. And I would love to hear from you. Now, you can also, there are still some picture book giveaways. If you would like to enter either for the free copy of the Griffins of Castle Carey or from one of the picture books that I mentioned last week, you can enter your name the same way. And you have until May 20th, in case you're watching this some other future time, that's May 20th, 2020, to get your names in to win a free book. I just want to mention too that the book giveaways are for people who live in the United States, just for shipping. That we want to keep it so that we can ship it out to you so that the book will get to you. So if you live in the US, you can enter this particular book giveaway. And I hope you are the lucky one. All right, Zoe, I hope you enjoyed your very own episode of Fiction Friday. I have one more joke just for you. What do elves learn at school? What do elves learn at school? Do you know? The alphabet. Did you get it? The alphabet. All right, that's all for this week. And wherever you are, from Massachusetts to Oregon, I hope that you have a good week ahead, and I will see you next time on Fiction Friday.